How many first-time visitors?
All right, we love rookies. John's given this talk for what, 70, 80 times now?
Yeah.
Several here, right? More than 5. I know.
I think 2011 was the oldest file I saw on the drive. Yeah.
John's one of the board. My name is Mark. I am the treasurer and scheduler. So if you get on the website and you want to go the preservation, that comes through to me. We celebrated, probably not all that grandly, 25 years in operation summer. Somewhere north of 80,000 visitors over the year, including the roughly 3 years that were shut down due to COVID. Entirely volunteer, grant, donation run organization. While we sit on the grounds of the school does not own the facility. It's run by the Little Thompson Science Foundation. I'm a board member. That someone around this Jay sitting in the back of the very long. Our mission is to promote education in math and science for usually when they're away. Kindergarten through grade 12, right? So that's, and with the obvious from the math and science part, the telescopes to reach down whole fence and building here. Unfortunately, the 24-inch is, I won't say in a state of disrepair, it's in a state of
Improvement.
what?
State of improvement.
Yeah, well,
Renovation.
that has yet to be proven, right? We're trying something new. We want to try to be able to operate in 2 different modes, and I'm not going to go into the intricacies of what that is at the moment right now. It's normally set up in a Newtonian configuration, but that a 24-inch telescope, and then the 18-inch and the 16-inch refractor, 6-inch refractor, and a solar telescope will come on the west end of the building, which is the original configuration. So everybody's sitting west of the blue line is in the original building, and this is the addition that we did back in the middle 2000s, or 2006. And it got this little video operational about 12 years ago. But as I said, donation and grant run organization. If you like what we do, there's a donation box on the back.
Water's on.
We happily accept whatever you have. Water's on. There's also ways to do it online if you go to the website. So purple or blue flyers there. I don't know if they will instructions on how to get there. Starkids.org. PayPal is another way to do it online, and you do not need a PayPal account. So without further ado, actually, one last question. What got you here? Or how did you find out about this? Was it Facebook? Some other?
Just one of my friends was familiar with it, but would never actually be. Oh, he was done in space. Check it out.
All right. Well, anybody, whatever. How did you guys find out about
Just Facebook.
Where should we advertise?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. What's the most effective way? Okay. All right. Cool. Very good.
I think there's a homeschool page on Facebook that mentioned it.
Okay. All right.
That's cool.
Very good. Without further ado, I'm going to shut up and get off stage.
Okay.
Get on with it.
All right, well, welcome everybody. Now, I've done this off and on for, more than a decade, almost a decade and a half. Keep tweaking it and organizing it a little differently, take the content in and out. A few years ago, a question in the audience at the end was, the whole idea here is we're going to look at the Star of Bethlehem and the Gospel and the Stars and try to see if there's anything more we can glean out of the Christmas story using some both biblical references, historical references, and science. So you're going to get some astronomy at you. Wow, it's an observatory, so that's what you would expect. But someone said in the end, well, how did the Magi actually get to where Jesus was in the end? I'm like, I don't know. And so that inspired the last section that you'll get at the end. I will need someone to steer on the got a lot of place near the end, and I'll give you time to wiggle the mouse and all that. So, we have a couple animations, and this doesn't want to play it. All right, so when you approach your typical Christmas tree, thanks for the audio-visual aid here, there's often a star, sometimes an angel on top, but that star has historical significance. Here's another star. I know it's the Star Wars Death Star. Do you know Disney is not the reason for the season? So, all right, so different star. Never mind that, I think I've just discovered a new planet. He's got his telescope going over here. Operator, these three men on camels have been following me all night. I stop, they stop, I go, they go. I'm so scared. Okay. All right. But yeah, you're used to this image on children's books and gift cards, greeting cards, yeah. With a star up there and three wise guys on camels marching along. Most of that's probably wrong, and we're going to cover that tonight. Then it's hovering over Bethlehem in the distance or on somebody's business card. So I don't know what business you would be in to have a card like that. Camel sales? I'm not sure. So the nature of the star has been lost in history, confused by the passage of time. And yet, the question of the nature of the Star of Bethlehem has interest to religion, history, science, and philosophy. We can't really pass on this mystery. So we're going to spend tonight playing with this. All right, get right off from the beginning here. This sure could have been the glory of God, a miracle, an angel, and science has nothing to do with this. So good night, everybody. So no. But no, we're going to see if we can go further than this, acknowledging that just might be the case too. So to get there, we have to look at the possibility that there's meaning in these constellations in people's brains that spells out a story. And so we're going to work with that first. This is what I call the gospel in the stars. I can't find my laser here. It's not my normal clicker. Oh, it's on. It's working. Yeah. It's just I'm aiming and missing the laser. So we're going to ask the question, according to the Jewish people at the time, might there have been something God built into the heavens that helped steer this whole thing forward? And then we'll explore what the star might have been. So let's get into the science of astronomy, part one. A few quick science terms so we're all on the same page together. First, what is a constellation? All right, well, constellations are clusterings of stars. Old star maps got very flowery and pictorial about it. The neat thing is you get these clusters of brighter stars together, and then kind of blank spaces naturally set those groups apart. And so quite often, a constellation to one people group is a constellation to another people group. Not always the same figures or animals or table appliances or things like that, but they often break up the same way. Oh yeah, there's a telescope, there's a microscope in the sky. They're all in the southern hemisphere, thanks to Magellan. But anyways. Next term is a conjunction. It's when two or more things in the sky get really close to one another. How close? Close enough that you go, wow, look, those two things are close to each other. It's not really carefully defined. It was a year and a half ago, we had Jupiter and Saturn cross really close in the southwestern sky. Yep. Was it 4? I'm in a time warp. All right, that was during the pandemic, right? Is that okay? Yeah, and that was really pretty. It was a neat view. So a conjunction is that two things close to each other in a way that is noticeable. All right, next is the ecliptic. This is the path of the sun and the moon and the planets through the stars. And the solar system is really flat. If you picture a big plate and put half an orange in the middle for the sun and have peas going around as planets, that's pretty close to the configuration of the solar system. There's little tilts like that. Yes?
What about Pluto and the west of the planets? Those go like off.
Yeah, Pluto's got the biggest tilt, but Pluto also got demoted. So, oh, I know. I should have wore this shirt, bring back Pluto, so I've got that at home. But it's close enough to a flat plane, a few degrees of tilt for different planets, that we're in that same plane, that all the planets go really through a line that cuts across the sky. And you won't find a planet up in Ursa Major, the Big Dipper. You won't find a planet other places in the sky. They're near that line. The moon has about a 5-degree tilt, so it can be a little above and below that line, but 5 degrees among friends, that's close. So, yeah, so that's the ecliptic. This is what it looks like from the inside. So, I know I'm going to say the astrology word in the science place. I'm sorry, but it's important to this talk. Actually, I was taught astronomy at University of Phoenix. Star student, almost straight A's in the class, came up to me the last day and said, boy, this is the best astrology class I could have had. I have failed. I have just failed. But what this astrology thing is all about is, say, we're here on January 1st. It's pretty easy to figure out of these 12 constellations behind this ecliptic line that the sun is sitting in front of. And so on January 1st, it's in front of Sagittarius, and that is the zodiac sign for this date. And then March 1st, we've gone a little ways around, and now it's Aquarius that's being hidden by the sun. So when you go up to somebody and say, what's your sign? That's kind of what we're doing. It's actually wrong. There's another drift wobble in the Earth going on that actually makes these all change every 26,000 years. We'll talk about that in a second. Question? No? Okay, I thought you had some. All right, so, okay. Well, let's go three-dimensional now and see how all this works. So here's the Earth. It's tilted 23.5 degrees off of this flat dinner plate of a solar system. And that means that we can take the equator, paint it up into the sky, and we have the celestial equator. So that's just very simple. You go down to Ecuador, stand on the line, look up, the celestial equator is directly overhead. We're just extending that off into space because we're the most important thing, we're Earth. This is our plane of the planets and the sun and the moon and the stars. So it's tilted because the Earth is tilted. And the winter solstice down here, where the sun is just about to be, I think it's either today or tomorrow. I should look that up. Tomorrow, okay. Is down, well, because of leap year, it can drift back and forth by a day or so. So it's 23.5 degrees down here, so the sun is really low, short trip across the sky, a very shallow sunlight angle, and we get cold. Except this year in Colorado, where it's not cold and we don't have snow. All right. Go 6 months later, the sun is high as it can be above the equator. It's shining more directly down on us, and we're enjoying the pool and doing all that kind of stuff. Autumn and spring is the one point for a moment that the sun's right on the equator. The days are 12 hours long, nights are 12 hours long, planet-wide, and that's the beginning of those two seasons. All right, part two. Now we're going to take a look at astrology and Judaism. Did they think there was something important going on? So my thesis here is that modern astrology may be a twist on the good news God placed in the heavens to foretell of the coming of Jesus. So it is, we make it about us rather than we make it about God. And we'll see if that holds up here. So the possibility is God placed the meanings of the patterns of the stars of the zodiac on humankind's heart and placed a desire to tell what was to come there as well. Salvation available to all mankind. So let's take a look at some verses here. Psalm 19 says, the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the works of his hands. You're going to see a lot of astronomy actually in the Bible. Hebrew 11, some people call the Hall of Faith, talking about the Old Testament characters who believed in the future coming Savior. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. All right, Genesis 1, we're pretty close to that beginning there. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, lesser to govern the night. So we got moon and sun, and made the stars, set them in the vault of the sky to give them light on earth. Job 9, he's the maker of the bear, that's Ursa Major again, and Orion, the Pleiades, and the constellations of the south. Psalm 147, he determines the number of stars and calls them each by name. So a lot of God-star connection here. Jeremiah 31, going now to this possibility that it's written in our hearts. This is a covenant I will make with the people of Israel. After that time, declares the Lord, I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. Just going a little bit further, says, this is what the Lord says, so we're still in the same section we just read. He who appoints the sun to shine by day and who decrees the moon and stars to shine by night. And then Romans 2, people who do not have the law, they show that the requirements of the law are written on their hearts. So we have this creating of stars, writing on hearts, pretty close together in the Bible. Hebrews 8, this is the covenant I will establish with the people of Israel. After that time, declares the Lord, I will put my laws in their minds and write them on their hearts. I will be their God and they'll be my people. All right, so what is this astrology thing? It's the belief that the position of the sun, moon, planets, and the stars tell of what is about to come. That's pretty simple. And astrology is mentioned in the Bible. The zodiac, the 12 constellations, are Mazzaroth in Hebrew. So Job 38 says, can you lead forth the signs of the zodiac in their season? Can you guide the stars of the bear with her young? Switch to the NIV and you have, can you bring forth the constellations in their season or lead out the bear with its cubs? All right, so going deeper into these meanings, again, this is back to our hypothesis here. That if you were God, would you communicate your most important message to humanity only via book that's not going to come about until much later in history and then only later widely translated and printed, or would you kind of have the heavens declaring the glory? All right, so if this is true, we would expect multiple peoples of around the world to have some similar constellations. So we're going to explore that as we go through the 12 constellations and the gospel meaning of each. We are looking here at the whole sky. Here is that path of the ecliptic. Remember, it makes this wave because the Earth is tilted 23.5 degrees. So this is 23.5 degrees below, 23.5 degrees above over here. There's June and December where the sun is.
And September is completely flat. Why is that?
September, where is September?
In the middle,
Oh, right here?
with Virgo.
Yep. Well, that's where we're going to start. This is the fall equinox. So that's the first day of fall, because after that the sun's going lower. Here's the first day of spring, where it's now going above the equator. We're going to start our story here in Virgo, and we're going to go the direction that the sun travels around the sky. So at the point of the fall equinox. First four constellations that we're going to handle in groups tell of the nature of Christ, his work, and his triumph over sin, Satan, and death. Virgo is what we start with. There's a picture of what the constellation looks like. Oh, thank you. That's very helpful. I can double fist now, click and point. All right. So let's take a look at what different people groups had for this constellation, and there is some similarities. We've got Isis in Egypt, queen of the stars to the Chaldean Ishtar, one of Solomon's wives to the Hebrews. In India, the mother of the great god Drishna. Greek is Persephone, daughter of Zeus, goddess of the harvest. Babylonians were not coming to the party. It's an ear of corn. So in China, supreme place, the palace enclosure. So yeah, they're out to lunch also. So it's not perfect, but there's a lot of them. In our telling of the gospel through the constellations, this is very simply the Virgin Mary, the birth of Christ from a virgin. Moving on. Libra, the scales. This is the balance of justice in human affairs, as well as the balanced arrangement of nature's laws. Egyptian origin, probably with that meaning. And to the Hebrew, it was scales, or the balance, which Belshazzar and Nebuchadnezzar are measured against. His son was found wanting. I think that's where we get the writing on the wall story. The scorpion's claws to the Babylonians and Greeks, and China put a dragon there. So Chinese are not playing again. In our telling of the gospel, this is the false gospel of the difference between good works and bad works. So if you believe that if you're really good, you do more good than bad, then you've got that in heaven. Like, that's not how it works. We are not saved by works, but by grace. So it's a gift. Why we exchange gifts at Christmas is a picture of that free gift. Scorpion. The Scorpion is down at the bottom of the constellations. This is the lowest we go. This is the birthplace of Mars in mythology. Antares translates to arrival of Mars. And Mars can go through this constellation because ecliptics there, and you can have difficulty telling them apart depending on what part of the solar system we're in.
Which star is here?
Antares would be the 3 right there. It's the brightest one right there. Yes, that's the heart of the Scorpion. Yep. This is an old one going back to about 5000 BC. To the Israelites, the Scorpion. It was also Scorpion to Egyptians, Mayans, Greek, Persians, Turkey, India, and the Mayan and Aztec. In Polynesia, it's Maui's fishhook, and you can see that in Moana. That's where she's heading to find Tafiki. And China, it's another dragon. So.
Because if you go like this way, you can kind of
you
see
can see
the hook.
the
Yeah, they got the stinger right back here, but this is Maui's fishhook, yeah. So in our telling of the gospel, it's the deadly foe. This is Satan and his sting of death. The foe Jesus defeated in the underworld, the lowest spot on the ecliptic. So right after that is an archer. We have Sagittarius, man, horse, archer. It's a centaur, would be another term for that. To the Euphrates and Babylonians, it was the archer Negral, the god of war, the centaur. India, it's a horse's head with a fan of lion's tails. China had part of a dragon, part of a tortoise. It's a fish to the Polynesian. And this is the first time we have a constellation that is dual nature. You've got 2 different creatures put together. And that's a picture of Christ. He's 100% man, 100% God. And so he's got a dual nature as well, theologically. And he is firing, obviously, an arrow right into the heart of the Scorpion. So dealing death blow to death. All right, now we're up to our second 4 constellations of the group. This is the fruits of Christ's finished work, his position as our mediator, and the relationship between Christ and his church. Capricornus is a goat fish, and we enter what's called the ocean of the sky. Not only are the constellations along the zodiac water and fish-like, you also have a whale here, Cetus, and some other fishy things going on in this part of the sky, just in constellations in general. This is Bacchus' goat, disguised as a dove, as he dove into the Nile River. He got a fishtail from swimming. Ancient Chinese had an ox, and that became a goat fish. Oh, they're back playing the game with us. The Egyptians had a water-bearing god and goat's horns. It was just a goat to the Persians, Turks, Syrians, Arabians, and like that. Again, the water section here largely is focused on the Holy Spirit. It's often symbolized by living water, flowing water, like that. So Capricorn is goat fish, dual nature again, sacrificial lamb that Jesus was for all time, and his spirit. Next one, another water one, is Aquarius, the water bearer. And I fixed the constellation for the first time in 12 years, 13 years. Had a Virgo there again, just did it right before the thing here. But to the Arabians, it was a mule carrying 2 water buckets. To the Egyptians, it was Monius, or Mau, where water word comes from. There's a water bucket to the Persians, Israelites, Syrians, Chinese, and Turks. So Chinese are back with us here. So the Chinese emperor also commemorated a tremendous flood. Yes?
Why can you see the western constellation? How far does it go?
I think that's the last star right there. It's just on the black. Yep. You got it. I didn't get to test this beforehand. Noah's flood is also associated with this constellation, and also a great flood sent by Zeus in that mythology. So Aquarius is a water bearer, source of living water. His Holy Spirit can also represent Noah's flood and the cleansing of that. Next one over is Pisces. Pisces is an important constellation here. Got two fishes here. And it's two fishes to the Hebrew. It's a pig pen in China. Oh well. Lost to Chinese again. It's also is the home of the vernal equinox. So this is where the sun is now coming back up in the sky seasonally. And it's the sign of the church or age of Christ. It's the age of Pisces, because wherever the vernal equinox is, that's what defines our age. The next age over is Aquarius. And so, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. That song, I can't believe I sang. I tell myself each time, I'm not going to sing this time, but I did. And so the cheering on in that song is like, let's get rid of this age of Christ. Let's get into age of mankind doing their own thing. That's 400 years away, maybe, but anyways. It's also a picture of the two testaments, Old and New, the covenants. Pisces could also be the source of the ichthys. So in use about 200 AD and beyond, Greek word for fish. And I can't actually find that this is truthful, but Christians were open to a lot of persecution. And so if two people met each other and they wanted to find out if the other one was Christian, one would make a little swoop with a foot, looks innocent, and if the other one completed it with their foot, swoop, swoop, then you could go off and talk about God. So, all right, but the problem with the that age, I told you about the age of Aquarius coming, is that we're back to that 26,000 year wobble of the Earth's North Pole. And that eventually makes the North Star be a whole bunch of other different stars than Polaris right now, which gets its name from being the pole star. But if you go back to the time of Christ, the North Star was over here, and probably the closest thing is this star and the Little Dipper. But they didn't really have a good North Star back then. As it goes through this constellation beyond, you got some other candidates. Here's Vega over here. I'm sorry, that's Deneb, Vega right there. In 14,000 years, really bright star will be kind of close to the North Pole point. But this also makes the zodiac itself drift around. So we're about a constellation and a half off now. So if you go look at your astrology sign on a newspaper, what's that, or a website, it's wrong by 1.5 constellations, but it'll be okay again in about 23,000 years. Next one over is Aries. Aries the ram. Also the gold ram saved the life of Phrixus. It's named after the month Nisan, when the Israelite slaves were released from Egypt to follow Moses in the wilderness. 40 years later, a ram's horn brought down the walls of Jericho. It was a ram or sheep to the Arabians, Syrians, Persians, and Turks, probably because they talk. China made 3 constellations out of this, a bound lasso and a sickle. Aries is the ram, or the altar, the sacrifice for all again, and the final sacrifice, the high and elevated deliverer. We're heading up to the top of the constellation arc again. Final 4 constellations tell of the great judgment to come and the conclusion of God's plan for a sinful world. Taurus the bull was a Zeus's disguise. He wanted to go after Europa, also associated with Argonaut Jason, and sacrificed to become the Golden Fleece. The Druids held their Tauric festival when the sun entered this constellation boundary. The Egyptians was a bull god. Babylonians had a bull. China had a white tiger. Oh well. Lakota had a bison, which is kind of similar. So going to the constellations over here. So this is the resurrection picture coming off of the altar. You only have the front half of the bowl rising towards the east. Gemini the twins, you're back to having something with a dual nature again. It's also the two sons of Zeus, Castor and Polydeuces, I think. Pollux in Latin, so Castor and Pollux are the name of these two bright stars. Babylonian twins, Greek mythology twins, Polynesia had twins, China had a part tiger, part bird, and we say had something with a dual nature. And Lakota have Bear's Teepee and Devil's Tower there. Gemini the twins, Castor is the head of the foremost twin, Pollux is the strong one, become labor rule. You get the word pugilist up from this, referring to a professional fighter or boxer. So you have the judgment by the dual nature of Christ, also interpreted as Jesus and the church is one, bride and bridegroom. This is a weird one, Cancer at the top. But this is also a crab sent by Herod to slow down Hercules. To the Egyptians, it's the scarab. The Germanic Slavic people, a crawfish, kind of similar. India region, you had lobster. The star cluster in here is Praecipe, and it is known as nurturing, the stall, the crib or the manger, the multitude, the innumerable seed, the descendants of Abraham. So this is the ultimate fulfillment of the promise to Abraham. The star cluster Praecipe, you can see it with your naked eye. It's a dusting of stars. It's one of the Messier objects as well, great for beginning astronomers to seek out. Contains in the confines of another waterborne creature, the crab, also gathering of the redeemed. Finally, Leo the lion, the first creature Hercules had to slay. Babylonians and Egyptians saw a lion here, so did the Greeks. China had 3 enclosures and a bird. Okay, that's just... this is the king, the lion of the house of Judah, the end of the series and of time. Seen in Hosea 5, Revelation 5, also Aslan in the C.S. Lewis books or the movies. All right, lots of other astronomical links are built into the Bible. The placement of Easter on the calendar comes from the first Sunday, after the first full moon, after the moment the sun is on the vernal equinox. So you should understand all those things right now. It's the moment spring begins. It can occur as early as March 22nd or as late as April 25th. This year is pretty late, April 20th, which means we get 1 day off at school in April, where normally April is a long slog without a break. Hanukkah occurs on the 25th day of Kislev and concludes on the 2nd or 3rd day of Tibet. This is based on a lunisolar Hebrew calendar, where you almost have 13 lunar calendar cycles. And it can go, I don't have it, I thought I had that. Oh, yeah, from Wednesday this year, actually on Christmas Day, up to January 2nd is how far.
Actually, sundown on the 24th.
Sundown on the 24th? Okay, thank you. There's lots of other astronomical things, constellations like that, and star cluster that's named in the Bible. Run through these real quick. Job 38, where the zodiac is described. Psalm 147, God calls the stars by names. Genesis 1, the purpose of stars are described. Romans 1, later 2, don't worship the constellations. All right, so even the 12 tribes of Israel were represented by the 12 constellations of the zodiac, the Mazzaroth. And so you have the tribe of Judah, Leo, tribe of Benjamin, Gemini, tribe of Simeon, Pisces, that's the tribe of Dan is Scorpio. And that also dictated where they camped around the tabernacle in the wilderness in the Old Testament. So here's where they all lined up. Only the Levites, the priesthood were in the center. And that's patterns repeated in cathedrals today. Hey, back to astronomy in part 3. A star by any other name. What is a star? Well, to us, we're all scientific, and we know that these are huge balls of hydrogen and helium held together by gravity, held up by their heat from nuclear fusion, but that's not what the ancient people knew. In fact, a star was almost anything interesting or an interesting event that occurred in the sky. So these stars were just fixed stars, but we had lots of others. We had falling stars, bearded stars, new stars, and wandering stars. So perhaps the secret of what the Star of Bethlehem could be one of these special stars. Okay, let's start with falling stars. These are little bits of sand, grains of dust, usually smaller than your pinky finger. They're coming in at thousands of miles per hour, burn up in the atmosphere due to friction. Put your hands together and rub them. I'm not trying to get applause yet. All right, so that's yesterday's cheeseburger turning into heat. These things are coming in so fast that they flash into light. Fun side thing, meteoroids, meteors, and meteorites are all basically the same thing. That's all where they are. And if you can't remember that, if you could go get a meteorite and sell it, you make some good money just sitting on the ground there, go sell it online. So you can't get into space to get these things unless you're Elon Musk. So meteoroids are, I'm annoyed, that's a meteoroid. Meteorite says, all right, I found a meteorite. Okay, so just remember that forever, yeah. Well, these are really common and these are really short-lived. So a meteor is probably not going to be our Star of Bethlehem. In fact, the Magi probably came from the Iran region today and had to travel across Iraq all the way over. That's a big trip, yeah. So you need something that's going to hang around probably for months. Okay, let's move on. Oh, here's what they think the actual trip was to and back. All right, over 900 miles it had to go. So a bearded star, could have predicted this one as a comet. Comets can hang around for weeks, maybe a month or so. These are bigger, multiple miles in size, collections of rock dust, frozen oxygen, nitrogen, water. And as they get close to the sun, they warm up and geysers burst out and the material, either gases that get ionized or dust, it's white, always flow away from the sun. So you can't tell looking at this whether it's heading towards the sun or leaving. They look the same. So comets are also pretty famous. People really like documenting comets. So the tapestry in Bayeux, France shows the events showing the Norman conquest of England in 1066. And here's the people looking up at this comet, and they're doing what we do today, pointing and ooh and ah. They just don't have their cell phones out. So that's all they're missing. But most people saw comets as signs of impending doom. They were omens of misfortune, not great things happening. So probably culturally, comet wouldn't have done it. We also don't have a record of a comet appearing in the night skies around the time of the birth of Jesus. And we're going to figure out what that is in just a moment. Well, I got a slide for that. Give me just a moment. Another possibility would be a fixed star or a new star, but these are actually old stars. So if you have two stars orbiting each other, bigger stars, they eventually end their life trying to burn with quotes, heavier and heavier elements in their core. They swell up, and you might have a white dwarf here, and then his partner gets old and swells up and it starts losing its atmosphere down. It spirals in, makes a disk of increasing temperature and density, and eventually it ignites, fusion again, and you have a big bright flash that lasts days or weeks. Fades out pretty quickly. Those could do it. That's not too bad of a candidate. Even more rare and spectacular are supernova. So you have stars that are really massive, and they combine materials all the way up to iron. Iron doesn't give you more energy as you try to push it into creating heavier elements. And so the core of the sun or star gets cold, more quotes, and the whole star collapses down, bounces off that core, and explodes out and briefly outshines the galaxy. Those are beautiful, big, and they can also hang around for a little while. On July 4th, 1054, such a star erupted in the constellation of Taurus. The event was carefully recorded by Chinese astronomers. They called it a guest star, and it outshined the full moon and was visible at broad daylight for more than 2 months. And when we look with the Hubble Space Telescope nowadays, This is object 1 in the Messier catalog, and this is the debris still expanding out from that ancient explosion. Actually, I have an astronomy lab I teach where you get 50-year apart pictures of this, and you can plot little nodules of gas and see how they expand. Yes?
How far is the Prime Nebula Earth?
I don't have that number in my head. I am sorry. I can look it up real quick, but I can look it up afterwards. I've got an astronomy app that can do that. All right, so who kept the records? When I say that there are no records of this, well, the Arabian, Persian, Babylonian, and Chinese astrologers kept good records. These were important things. The oldest recorded supernova was recorded by Chinese astrologers 185 AD. The earliest recorded sunspot observations go to 364 BC. The earliest surviving comet records go to Halley in 240 BC. So, yep, people cared about what was going on in the sky, and we probably would have known about something happening right about then. Supernova 1054 is only one of 5 supernova events that have occurred from inside our galaxy throughout recorded history. Now that we can look at other galaxies, we can see a few almost all the time. It's kind of cool, but not shining out. The last one that we could see with the naked eye was from the Magellanic Cloud, and that was in the late 80s?
87.
87, thank you, yeah. I remember I was trying to get into a movie theater and wishing I could see it because it was below the horizon permanently from this part of the Earth. All right, so I guess we need to go deeper. If these astronomical candidates don't do it, we got to really tear apart the timeline. When was Jesus born? We have no biblical evidence to suggest that Mary and Joseph saw the star. Who did see it, though? Shepherds didn't, apparently. They saw angels seeing glory to God, but not the star. There's illuminated sheep. So we know that King Herod didn't see it because he had to ask the wise men about it. In fact, when they showed up, they went, whoa, what's going on here? As we'll see next, other cultures didn't report it either, even though we have many other world religions that have star-like elements in their expectation. The star in other cultures and nations, 6 BC, there were around 200 million people on Earth. The USA today has 340, with a world population of 8.2 billion. These are the rise and fall of different civilizations from 1900 BC up to 1700 AD. And we have Imperial China, we have ancient India, and ancient Rome, all cooking with all cylinders at the time of the birth of Christ. In other world religions, the Zoroastrian religion had a prophecy that kicked the Magi into motion. We'll see that in just a second. Judaism had a prophecy on this. Star said to predict the birth of Krishna in Hinduism. Jainism in India, some mention of a star, probably because they were closely geographically related to Zoroastrians. Buddhism in India, reincarnated spiritual leaders can be found in the star. I couldn't find anything in Taoism or the Mesoamerican religions. So that was 15 slides that I boiled down to one. So trying to keep the night moving. Thank you. So who saw the star? These wise men saw the star. So who were they? What were they all about? Wise men, or as they call themselves, the Magi, came from the Persia or Iran region today. The word Magi is the root of our modern English word magic, a magician. And what they were was soothsayers and astrologers of the Zoroastrian religion. As high priests of the religion, their job was to make predictions, foretell events based on their observations in the nighttime sky. That's why we're doing this. All right, so we only think there were 3 of them based on 3 gifts that they brought and Christmas cards and songs. In Eastern Christianity, the tradition is 12. They're probably at that time, to travel that far, you would have to have an entourage of supporting people to take care of the animals, cart the food, and things like that. You just couldn't stop at a Denny's along the way. And so it may have actually been a pretty good crowd traveling along that would have been very noticeable. Obviously, they were noticed enough to go see King Herod. And they have names that were assigned later, different sects and like that. So, putting it all together, part 5. The astrologers, these wise men, spent much of their time studying 5 special objects. These wandering stars or planets as we know today. But that was very mysterious. What were these things doing? They must be there telling people something important. To the wise men, these signs were moved by the gods. All right, so we're going to focus on 2 planets, Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter goes around the sun every 12 years, Saturn every 30. How many years does it take the Earth to go around? Oh, thank you very much. You're good. These 2 pass each other about every 20 years. And we just had that 4 years ago. That sets the stage for, if the Star of Bethlehem was not a supernatural miracle, which it may have been, but a miracle in creation, then there is an astronomical, astrological possibility. And since these Magi were astrologers and sorcerers, they were interested in this. They actually had prophecies that a king would be coming to Israel. So here's in Numbers 24, a star will come out of Jacob, a scepter king will rise out of Israel. So that goes back, Old Testament, way back. John Gill's commentary suggests that Numbers 27 could be better rendered as, when a star steers its course into Jacob, then a scepter bearer shall rise up unto Israel. Basically making this star an index finger pointed to the prophesied owner of the scepter. All right, so these wise men would have noticed a rare triple conjunction, close pass, between the planets of Jupiter, interpreted as the king of the planets. It's the brightest that goes around the entire sky. Venus is brighter, but it's always close to the sun. It's an inferior planet. This is a superior planet. It was Marduk to the Babylonians, Zeus to the Greeks, and Saturn, which represented the harvester, reaper, or Cronus in time. Sometimes it looks like the grim reaper. So they would have read that as the harvester has come, the king of the Hebrews is arriving. And it happened in Pisces. To the Magi, the Pisces is known as the house of the Hebrews. So they would have further read, the time the harvester has come, the king of Hebrews is arriving at the dawn of the age of Pisces. They knew that these wandering stars loop sometimes, and that basically just is this. If I'm driving in the left lane on the interstate, you got a semi-truck up there going slower, you know it's driving forward. But as you pass it, it seems to go backwards. And then you look in the rearview mirror, and it's still driving forward. Trees are vanishing in front of the truck and popping out the back of the truck from your point of view. And so as we pass these slower planets, they loop. It takes weeks, months, for these loops to occur. All right, so what we're going to do, it's animation time, my projectionist. We're going to look at this little area here around Pisces. And we're going to see what they saw. I want to kill some lights also for me. So if you wiggle the mouse over that, you should see the play tool at the bottom left. You got to slide to the right and look at the front of the room. So keep moving to the right. There we go. And just, yeah, hit the little play down there. Oops, we want. I can run back. I do this all the time. All right. Oh, I'll just do it. I didn't give you practice time. Responding. All right, here we go. I gave myself about 55 seconds to explain what you're seeing up here. So that red line is our equator on the Earth going up into the sky. Here's our green line, is our path of the sun, moon, and planets. And look at that, we got Mercury, Uranus, Jupiter, Saturn, and the sun all on that line. So good, the thing I told you earlier is true. We're on March 22nd, 7 BC. And as this animation clicks, you're gonna see the moon flash through every month. It will zip on through. Keep your eye on Jupiter and Saturn. It'll play twice automatically. Here's Pisces in the background. One fish there, one fish off the screen up here. 55 seconds is a long time when you're watching. And there fades out, and here we go. So here's Jupiter. Saturn has passed it once. Saturn is passing a second time. You see the moon zipping through. There's Saturn coming out the other side. And we're gone a whole year now. The sun is back to cross the vernal equinox again. We'll back it up a little bit more here. And do it again. It's Mercury coming in. Mars up here. Mars will be important too. We're going to talk about Mars in just a moment. The planet of warriors. There's Jupiter, there's Saturn passing. It's so close that the software has to take the name of Saturn off. Here comes Mars right into the mix, right before it all vanishes in the daytime with the sun. I didn't put blue sky up here with the sun. I want you to see everything that's going on. Okay, one more. You want to try this one? I can jump back there. Same thing with a little play. Whoops. Oops. Yeah, I can't click until you see the, there it is. Hit that little play. All right. So here it is zoomed in so you can see the two and the constellation depiction of Pisces. That is really close. It's less than the width of the moon. It's a fraction of the moon's size. So those are really close passages. So thank you.
Visually, not
Right.
close.
Right, not in real space, yeah, not at all, yeah, because they're way in depth, yeah. So how rare is this really? I played with this and found all these dates. It's interesting that there are lists of these dates online, and I recreated them in the software, and some of the things out there are misinformation. So these are real. On average, it happens about every 456 years. Going all the way back to 1953 BC. Here's our one that we're focused on for 7 BC. It hasn't happened in the Pisces constellation since the Zoroastrian religion came to be around 450 BC. And only 14 of these in 2,800 years were even close to this. So it is a very rare event. It really would have gotten their attention. Other people have tried to come up with other astronomical links out there. I just want to mention real quick. Lunar eclipse of Jupiter in Aries is 6 BC, a touch late. The conjunction between Jupiter and Regulus, known as the little King Magi, 3 BC, and 9 months later with the conjunction of Venus. It's much too late. Venus and Jupiter pass each other in 2 BC, which is too late. This is a favorite of Halley, Edmund Halley of the comet fame. Jupiter and Saturn conjunctions happened in 66 BC and 125 BC, but they weren't triple. So none of those other things really stand out. For the best historical timing, the above triple conjunction fits the bill. Now Mars comes in right in the end too, and Jesus is portrayed as a warrior. His disciples thought he was going to kick Rome's butt, but he didn't. He gave himself over to the cross. He kicked sin and death's butt. So, all right, and we have the Christmas carol that seems to support this. Our little town of Bethlehem actually says, "O morning stars together proclaim the holy birth." I don't think that's, I just had to throw it in there. All right, so putting it all together, Roman census, about 8 BC. Census in Palestine took a while for news to get there. Probably got to Palestine in early 7 BC. The first star passage, Saturn and Jupiter, happened here. Second, later in 7, third, and the Magi go, hey, something's happening. We just had a triple conjunction, let's move it. Mary and Joseph probably travel right here. And the birth of Jesus happens in this little gap right in here. Herod orders the babies killed around here. They make their flight to Egypt, stay away until Herod dies, and then they return from Egypt around 4 BC. All right. So how, this is a new section, how did they actually get to find Jesus in the end? All right, so if there is a connection between the sky and how God spoke to people in ancient history, then maybe there was more communicated than we can even put together here. In Matthew 2, now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him. All right, so that shows that the arrival in Jerusalem happened after Jesus was born. Viewing the star started them on the journey, and they were important enough to get to talk to the king. King Herod, nasty guy. When King Herod heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And the assembled chiefs, priests, scribes, and people inquired where Christ is to be born. They told him in Bethlehem, for it was written by a prophet. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people. So it didn't need a star. It was already in the Old Testament where this was going to happen. But that surprised King Herod. Word spread throughout Jerusalem this was happening. He had to look at Micah 5 to figure this out. Micah 5 has Bethlehem listed. So Matthew 2 goes on. He summoned the wise men secretly, ascertained what time the star had appeared, and sent them to Bethlehem, saying, go and search diligently for a child, and when you found him, bring me word that I may too come and worship him. Don't do that. Herod was ready to go the secret route plan. He had to ask his advisors when the star had appeared, and we're about a year before, and it's taking months still to get to the birthplace here. So it wasn't to him, obvious to him or the general population, but he pieced together the time. Matthew 2, and having heard the king, they went their way, and lo, the star which was seen in the east went on before them, came and stood over where the child was. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced exceeding with great joy, and they came into the house and saw the child. House is an important word here. So the star continues to take an active role in guiding them to the house. Not a stable, something an astronomical or astrological event would not easily do. So is there something more going on in the sky that helped? I don't see it. So that part, leave it to miracles. But our final step asks, did the Magi go to Bethlehem? The two, when they had performed everything according to the law of the Lord, they returned to Galilee. This is talking about Mary and Joseph. Nazareth is referred to as the city of Galilee, the home of Mary. It's about 70 miles away. It's about a 2 to 3 day trip for someone not pregnant, maybe twice as long for Mary. So according to the law, Jesus would have had to be circumcised on the 8th day in the temple. Mary would have performed purification on the 33rd day. The prophecy named Bethlehem, and Herod ordered all the male children, 2 and younger, in Bethlehem and all that region killed, because he's trying to scoop in. We have to do 2 years. We get a whole time from the star appearing to now. So the Magi probably went to Bethlehem, or did, but they then had to go to Nazareth to see Jesus. In Bethlehem, the shepherds knew about Jesus. Many more would have known about him. So they would easily have been able to travel that 70 miles. Jesus would have arrived back in Nazareth a month and a half after his birth. Then the wise men came along. So what's interesting, in the moment the spring began, March 21st, 6 BC, is something I noticed playing with my software, is that Sun, Moon, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, Venus, and even Uranus, not yet discovered. Only Neptune was left out, but they were all clustered in a small part of the sky. That would have been overhead at the zenith with the sun on the meridian at 12:47 p.m. In Bethlehem. March 21st, 6 BC. And it kind of looks like this. I mean, there's just all the planets are right in that little tiny area, 6 BC. So how they actually find Jesus? Mid-May of 6 BC, a couple months later, grouping of planets would finally be visible again in the pre-dawn sky as the sky began to lighten. At this point, Jesus is about 3 months old. So on May 15th, the moon scraped right over Jupiter, another conjunction, king of the planets in the pre-dawn sky. It kind of looks like this. There is moon and Jupiter so close that the software has Jupiter behind the moon.
Hey, what's
Okay.
that at the bottom for?
That's the ground. You're looking right at the eastern horizon in the morning. You can see a little color appearing in the sky. Yeah. So let's tighten up the time here. We got the 3 passages of Jupiter and Saturn. The Magi start to travel. Mary and Joseph travel. Jesus is born sometime in here. The Magi meet Jesus sometime here. Then Herod realizes they're not coming back. Time to bust some heads, and he wants the babies killed. They have to flee to Egypt. He dies, and they return from Egypt. So Jesus' birth was roughly around March 21st, 6 BC in Bethlehem. The Magi meet him around May 15th in Nazareth. Magi don't return. The kill order is issued late summer of 6 BC. So wrapping it up, is astrology good for telling your future? No, I don't think so. Are the heavenly bodies something to worship? Well, the Tower of Babel in Genesis 11 reads, "Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens." It could also be translated under the heavens or dedicated to the heavens, so don't do it. Are constellations essential in telling the gospel? Not anymore. We've got YouVersion Bible apps that are free. The skies might have been a way that God made all men without excuse when coming to know him. Romans 1, for since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power, divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so people are without excuse. But you can't really get it without the author, the Spirit of Christ instructing you, just like reading the Bible. It doesn't come alive unless you say, hey, help me make this come alive. So this exploration of biblical astrology was an attempt to peel back a layer of lost knowledge, the possibility that the hunger to know the future from the stars is left over from a desire to see the coming Savior from them. But however it occurred, miracle or not, it all comes back to Jesus. There is one little final note that the miracle of this all coming together is made more interesting by something called the 3-body problem. Not the streaming show, but that in Newtonian mechanics of how gravity works, if you get more than 2 things going around each other, 3 or 4, and we have hundreds of objects, you start getting errors or chaos showing up in your predictions of where the planets are going to be over large periods of time. So it could have been a miraculous star, angel, or God's light, or it could be a miracle of God putting in the heavens into motion in such a way that this all came together at the right time, including writing the hearts of mankind, the meaning of these stars, and that led the Magi to Jesus, who was born in a manger. Thank you very much.